Items are honestly the most important part of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. They completely change the way the game is played and equalize races by letting people in the back catch up and slowing down those in the front. And there are a lot of different items in this game, 17 to be precise, and while most people have probably used all of them at some point or another, is it possible to use every single one of them in a single race? When I first set out to answer this question, I tried to just go onto a track and brute force the problem. But after doing this for a few hours, I realized that I was still missing at least 3 items every time, so I decided that I needed a better strategy than just blindly throwing myself at the problem. The first thing I decided to do was pick a course. Up until this point, I had kinda just been going onto a lot of different bagging courses, but I figured that focusing on a single course would help for developing a consistent method. After a bit of consideration, I decided on DK Mountain. The course is really long and it has a lot of item boxes, which just gives us a lot more time to get what we need. For CC, I decided to go with 50 because not only does it give me a lot more time to get the items before the CPUs finish the race, but it also allows me to control my position in the race a lot better due to everyone else being slower. Next, I needed to research specific chances of the items. This is pretty difficult to do because there are quite a few different variables for which chances you have. Firstly, they're affected by how long into the race you are, with new items getting unlocked at both 20 and 30 seconds. The second part of this is your placement. There are 5 different brackets that you can be put into based on this, and then inside each of those brackets, there are different chances for items that are then based on your physical distance to first. It took a while to sift through all these different charts, but when I was done, I had created 3 basic categories of items. The first group is the Crazy 8, which are all of the items that you can get from a Crazy 8. The reason these are in their own category is because you basically need to get a Crazy 8 to be able to complete the challenge due to the blooper. This is because the blooper actually has an insanely low chance to be pulled as an item. With perfectly optimal positioning, the highest possible chance to get one is only 3.9%. And this is basically made impossible to achieve due to the fact that you have to be at least 6,270 distance units behind first place while still being in 3rd to 5th place, which is usually way farther ahead than this window. So all in all, it's just way more simple to get the Crazy 8 and use the blooper from there. The next item category, the power items. These are the items that can be obtained at really far distances, such as the Shock, Bullet, Golden Mushroom, Blue Shell, and Boo. These aren't really that hard to get as long as you stay far back, but if you have bad luck, it's still possible to miss them. The final 4 items are called the criticals, because they require a lot more focus than the others. All of these have very low chances, and necessitate you being in very specific scenarios in order to even be able to get them. These are, in no particular order, the Horn, the Fire Flower, the Boomerang, and the Piranha Plant. Next, it's time for the plan. First, I just kinda mess around until the person in first gets to the cannon, and then follow them through. At this point, my main goal is to get a Super Horn. The best way to get one is to be in 2nd place, but as close to first as possible, so I would wait at this top item box until my place changed to 2nd, and then fall off the edge. The reason you want to do this is because of the Wave 6 bagging countermeasures. Basically, in an effort to combat people staying at the back of the race to get powerful items, Nintendo made it so that if you ever collect more than 2 items at a single set, you will start getting junk items instead. But getting picked up by Lakitu resets this so you can go back and get more normal items. By this point, first place is far enough ahead that we now have a chance to get the rest of the critical items at this set, so with any luck we get at least one of them. Then for the next 2 sets of items, we just need to try and get the rest of the criticals. If by the final set of Halfpipe item boxes we don't have a horn and at least one other critical, I decided to just reset to save time. This means that only about 30% of runs survived past this point, which all things considered isn't too terrible. But once you get past this, the challenge really starts. As I mentioned before, getting picked up by Lakitu resets the bagging prevention measures, which would allow us to get all the power items in Crazy 8 as long as we have easy access to both a ledge to fall off of and an item set, and it just so happens that that's the exact situation we have at this next one. So once I got to this point, I would just repeatedly collect items and then immediately fall off the course to reset the bagging prevention, and then repeat over and over. Next, catch up and focus on getting criticals for the rest of the lap until I got back to this specific item set set and then do it all over again. So now that I had a solid plan of attack, it was time to begin. I pretty quickly realized that out of any item in this game, the piranha plant was my biggest enemy. The chance is only about 6% at absolute efficiency, so while I was able to get the other criticals somewhat consistently, the plant was insanely rare. About 4 hours in, I finally got a run that seemed like it might be it. I got both a fire flower and a plant at first set, and then everything just kept going smoothly. At the spam set, I got a lot of the power items and even managed to pull a boomerang late into the second lap for the third critical item. And then in the third lap, I got a horn, which meant that the only thing standing between me and victory was the shock. I got to the spam set and started breaking item boxes. Now you might be thinking, isn't it basically guaranteed to get the shock eventually? You can get a shock at any point behind 9th place and more than 4,075 units of distance from first place, so theoretically you should always have these conditions, right? Well, the thing is, about 30 seconds after the person in first place crosses the finish line, the game will start giving you junk items. But since the person in first place was still a good bit away from finishing, I had almost a minute to pull a shock before I would start getting junk, and with an almost 10% chance per item box, it seemed like it was almost guaranteed. Then first place crossed the finish line, and I was officially on the clock. I was breaking so many item boxes, but still no shock. I was getting worried because this was taking longer than expected, and I really didn't want to have to spend another potentially 4 hours getting to this spot again. And then, I got a green shell. My time was up. I was pretty sad about this, but at least it meant that my strategy worked and the challenge was possible. I just needed to get lucky. So I got back to work, resetting over and over again due to bad luck, until finally I got this run. And suddenly, I was back in the exact same position as before, everything except the shock. I kept trying at this item set until I got a bullet bill, but then I accidentally used it immediately, which started taking me away from the item set. But then, this happened. I had finally done it. I had used every single item in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe in a single race. This took me a total of 6 hours and 51 minutes and about 200 runs. I was so glad to finally get this because I'm just so tired of playing on DK Mountain. So yeah, there you have it. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, subscribe.